All right, Shalom. Before I start, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Archachorash, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all the elect Akim, Wa Akwath, learning and teaching in truth and sincerity, and then the video through the Spirit. Your brother Malak from GMS Detroit. This one right here, y'all, I came across this clip, and it's damn good. It says the many ills of Detroit. And what this guy, y'all seen him, he was, I forget what channel, the other channel he does like the history facts or something like that. Fair use. I do not profit off of this video. But just going to be showing how Esau Edom, the so-called white man, quite literally collapsed Detroit. I don't give a fuck about this city, right? Most people don't. But many running jokes here. Day toilet, that's one of them. Instead of calling it, we'll call it day toilet. But in all seriousness, what happened to this metropolitan area specifically, it shows you that Esau Edom, he has the power to completely shut your city down. And it appears that he did so to prevent Israelites from gaining too much power. What I mean by that, so-called Negroes specifically. This was a booming city, right? You had the auto industry. The auto industry was fine and dandy and was #1 in the world when the so-called white man, thriving through his racist policies, was getting that money. But after the Great Migration, after the war, and you had many of blacks, come up north and start to make that money, then you see that Esau begin the processes of removing the wealth out of the city, which impoverished so-called Negroes and Latinos, right, and Native Americans that moved here to make money, and then generations later results in, high crime as a product of poverty, right, lack of opportunity, miseducation, all that good stuff. Which, granted, we're under the curses, so Jake is out here acting a nut. But you can watch in this video, which I'm not going to play all of it. I'll play a good chunk, though. Y'all come watch it. You can see the direct correlation. Esau Edom tanked the city to strip niggas of wealth. And now what do we have? So if he has the ability to do that, y'all, what can we really do in this country? What we need is Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. We're not going to be able to rebuild our way out of this, vote our way out of this, none of that. Because you can do everything right and legal, you can do everything American and patriotic, and he can come and collapse your entire region, company by company, building by building, street by street, to where when you look up 50 years later, everybody's broke, sagging, and killing each other, and you don't know what the hell happened. All right, so that's what we're gonna cover in this video. Let me start with this, y'all. Hey, Esau. Let me get these things are in the power of his hand, like it says in Micah. All right, but we'll go to Psalms 10, where it says, let me get this right quickity, and then we'll get started. The fuck you looking at? Psalms 10. I want to start. Yep. Well, let's read. I want to start at verse 2. Then we're gonna jump. In verse 2, it says, "The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined." So Esau Edom, hey, these things are in the power of his hand, right? Because he's ruling, he has the ability to persecute, and he does it to us, to the Israelites, to fuck us over, right? That's plain and simple. I'm going to jump down to verse 8. It says, "He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net." So this man, y'all, Esau Edom, he loves to target people that are at a disadvantage through his many devices, laws, right, entrapment systems, And of course, the pull-up boys in blue and black and blue. So let's see how Detroit collapsed, y'all.
It was one of the richest cities in America. Today, it's a 139 square mile graveyard of industrial ambition, the most spectacular urban collapse in modern history. In 1950, Detroit stood as America's fifth largest city with 1.85 million people, a manufacturing colossus that had just spent a decade churning out bombers to help win the Second World War. Today, just 639,000 people call the place home, and a city with a landmass bigger than Boston, San Francisco.
And y'all, 600,000 people for a major metropolitan area is bad. And it's gonna go on to detail. There's lots of empty hollow space. The city used to have over 1 million some people. Now it has, barely over 500,000. So it ain't no wonder shit's falling in on itself. And this ain't the only metro that this has happened to. All right, this has happened to others, and particularly the major areas where Negroes and Latinos tend to frequent or live in are the ones that are suffering like this. I wonder why.
And Manhattan combined. But the truth that many people don't know is that Detroit's death blow didn't come from Toyota or NAFTA or Chinese steel, or at least didn't alone. The trend.
See, so it didn't come because of foreign companies. One of the things they like to say is, the foreign companies, they moved everything to China. No, before they moved things to China, they did something first.
Out of the city began well before any of those really took off. The city that partially invented the middle class was abandoned by the very companies that built it. What happened to Detroit goes beyond merely decline. It was the result of multiple disasters hitting the city simultaneously: manufacturing decentralization, racial tensions, political dysfunction, and financial mismanagement.
Racial tensions.
All colliding to create one of the most spectacular urban collapses in American history. This is the story of how Motor City collapsed, hit rock bottom, and tried to stage a comeback, and what lessons it offers for other cities that are facing similar pressures.
Mom, what's that?
Nothing. Just get in the car. Let's go. Come on.
Who did that?
Other cities that are facing similar pressures. Giants. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. This is very much the case with Detroit, and no doubt part of the reason that its fall's been oh so dramatic. The romanticized version of Detroit's history is that it remained a sprawling automotive manufacturing hub until globalization took the jobs and sent them overseas. While globalization trends in the 90s and beyond certainly did impact the city, the trends, they date back much further than many people realize. The truth is that pretty much immediately following the end of World War II, the city started bleeding manufacturing jobs. It wasn't obvious to anyone at the time, and nobody could have seen where it was going to end up, but the trend was there, and it was universally flowing in one direction: out. Between 1947 and 1963, supposedly some of the city's golden years, Detroit lost over 150,000 manufacturing jobs. But you might be wondering, well, how's this possible? I mean, this happened in Motor City. That's home of the big three manufacturers: Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. And it happened during a booming...
Right, so the big three are here. 1 second, everybody's making money, right? Building out, churning out cars. Then the next second, jobs are gone and motherfuckers is broke. I kind of want to fast forward. I'm gonna let it play for a second. If you don't hurry up and get to it, then I'll fast forward. But we're gonna see the initial reason of why the jobs were pulled away. Was it initially so they could make the shit cheaper in China? That wasn't the initial reason. That happened, right? But the initial reason was for what you think?
economy and an insatiable desire for cars. How could this be possible? The answer is that automobile manufacturers had already set their sights elsewhere. Between 1945 and 1957, the big three automakers built 25 new manufacturing plants in the Detroit metro area, yet 0 were built inside the city limits. This was a...
Yep, so for those who don't know, you have the actual city of Detroit, then you have Detroit Metro. The suburban cities that actually surround Detroit. right? Detroit is made up of east side and west side. Depending on what side of 94 freeway you live on determines, if you're in the East Detroit or West Detroit. Once you leave out of that, you have the surrounding cities. Cities like, Royal Oak, Farmington Hills, Taylor, Southgate, Livonia, Westland. There's the suburban cities once you get outside of Detroit. So we see actual Detroit itself was booming and closer to downtown. Then all of a sudden, they stopped booming. They started getting broken down. Why did Esau do it?
Stunning shift that had nothing to do with foreign competition and everything to do with strategy. There are a lot of factors at play here, some of which are more nefarious than others. On the most basic level, many of the factories built in Detroit were done so in the early 1900s, while designed, but these were problematic, as demand for car parts up multiplies in the Midwest pretty much.
So I'm gonna fast forward real quick, y'all. Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, this is a little map real quick, what I'm talking about, right? You have Detroit right there. That's the actual city, literally itself. And then you have the surrounding cities, Sterling Heights, Pontiac, Livonia, stuff like that, where all the factories end up getting moved to. So right here, we're about to see what the next one is. So they start moving these jobs out to the burbs, and you have to remember your history. Who were the suburbs created for in this country? And when they were created, who was allowed to initially live there? Not your black ass, right? Suburbs are created for the so-called white man in this country. Then the need for, personal vehicles. Back in the day, you used to be able to walk or catch the bus, to the factory because it was right down the road. And they pulled all the jobs out of the inner city, out to the suburbs, where your black ass was not allowed to live, and you needed a car 30, 45 minutes to travel to. You do the math. What do you think is going to happen to the city overnight?
In the city, the new plants were designed for the automobile age. Massive parking lots for workers who would drive, not walk, or take trains to work. Race was another huge factor, especially in the early days of plants leaving the city. The black population in the city had exploded from just 6,000 in 1910 to over 300,000 in 1950, driven by the Great Migration from the South to places like Detroit. The companies built their plants along highways and deliberately placed them beyond the reach of public transit lines. They recruited heavily from white neighborhoods in rural Michigan. And they did this because they saw integration as a threat to their ability to maintain production stability, which is exactly what anti-integrationists wanted.
They saw integration as fucking up the money. So what'd they start doing? Pulling Esau out and boxing you niggas in. Pulled all the jobs out, pulled all the ability to make money out, allowed the Edomites to go out to the suburbs through things like the Federal Housing Association, right? Gave the Edomite families government-funded programs to move and live out in the suburbs while your black ass was trapped in the city. And then they blamed it on you niggas. They blamed it on us. So they box us in, pull the money out, the city collapses, then they blame it on us. Ain't that some shit, y'all? Ain't that some shit?
Packard plant had promoted 3 black workers to the aircraft assembly line in 1943. 25,000 white workers walked off the job in protest. The message.
So then when you niggas started working, they would protest. 3 niggas get hired, and then the whole factory shut down because Edomites didn't want to work with you. But, I thought this country was all love, eh?
Was clear. Integration meant halting operations. Given black workers heavier dependence on public transit, shifting locations to the suburbs largely prevented this issue from raising its head, at least for a time. Beyond race, organized labor itself was a factor in the move out of Detroit. The city was the most heavily unionized in America, and the United Auto Workers had grown incredibly powerful through strikes and organizing.
All right, so right here, so the factories are going to the suburbs. People are starting to leave. Fast forward a couple years, you get to the Detroit riots of '67, which really sped up the decline, and the way that they like to, angle it. Oh, you black people are violent ever since you came here. All y'all doing is tearing up the city and taking all the jobs. And so now, Whitey started moving away and taking all the money with him.
The 12th and Clement spiked 5 days of chaos that left 40 accelerated with time. Then, sure, it's concerning, but July 1967 rolled around, and that changed everything. A police raid on an after-hours club at 12th and Clement spiked 5 days of chaos that left 43 dead, over 1,400 buildings burned, and $45 million in damages. That's over $400 million in today's money. The raid itself became the spark for something much larger. The club was celebrating the return of 2 Vietnam veterans, and when police arrested all 82 patrons instead of just citing the owners, a crowd gathered. In a neighborhood where unemployment exceeded 30% and tensions between the predominantly white police force and black residents had been building for years. And that spark found plenty of fuel. Governor George Romney called in the National Guard, and President Johnson even stepped in and called in the U.S. Army's 82nd and 100th
Lyndon B. Demon. Lyndon B. Demon.
1st Airborne Divisions to help restore order. The underlying issues were real. Detroit's police force was 93% white in a city that was nearly 40% black. Housing discrimination trapped black families in overcrowded neighborhoods while whites fled to the suburbs. They were successful in bringing the
trapped us in them tight cities while whites fled to the suburbs. Now, how did they flee to the suburbs? Now, I'm gonna let this clip play. I know the guy's face, I know what he looks like, but I don't know his name. Otherwise, I'd go pull up the interview directly itself. But this woman is going to be letting it play, so we're just going to listen to the audio.
In particular, public housing in particular was created not for poor black people. It was created for poor white people. And in fact, for the first several years of public housing, people of color couldn't even get into public housing projects. They were essentially segregated by race. Only poor white folks could even live there. And then what happened is the government created some new programs under the FHA program, the VA loan program, later on the GI Bill program, which allowed those same white folks who had been poor and struggling to leave public housing and to leave urban areas and to hustle it out to the suburbs where only we could live, or to the smaller towns where only we were going to be welcome. So what's interesting is that the hood became the hood because only people of color now were allowed to live there. White folks were literally being subsidized by the government to move to the suburbs. The white middle class, and make note of this, was built by government. Government programs that underwrote those loans because those families could not have afforded a loan otherwise. They were able to get one because the government underwrote the loan and guaranteed the loan in case of default, but only for people of color. Only for white folks. People of color, by and large, couldn't get in on any of that. So white folks were able to move, people of color were not. Certain neighborhoods deteriorated economically, other neighborhoods went up in value. At the very same time, the government was doing what they called urban renewal, which meant they came through black neighborhoods and Latino neighborhoods, and they built interstates right through.
Black and Latino highway segregation, built freeways through the middle of our populous areas of business. And I'll prove that here in a moment. I'm going to let this finish out and we get some more scriptures. Highway segregation, or highway racism as they call it, which, I've actually done videos on that some months ago.
Through the heart of the community, right? Knocking down black homes, black apartments, knocking down black-owned businesses all around the country. Between 1950 and 1970, about 1 in 5 apartments or houses.
Between 50 and 70. And what did we just learn from that video? Those are around the years that the exodus was happening, right? As they're moving out to the suburbs and we're getting trapped in the city. So it all links up. Detroit didn't just wake up a shithole, and black people didn't just come here and start tearing it up. Esau extracted all the wealth out of it. Once our people moved up to some of these northern cities, and Detroit was one of them, to prevent you from gaining, power.
Lived in by black folks was knocked to the ground for economic development purposes, even though people of color couldn't benefit from almost any of that economic development. So that's how our communities come to look the way they look. But if we don't know that, and if I don't tell my daughter that, but maybe let's say I don't tell her because I don't know, What if I don't know the history? What if I don't do this work and therefore don't know the answer? What do you think my daughter is going to assume is the answer?
They're going to assume that we're just lazy, dumb niggas. And that's not the case. These people purposely put us in this fucked off position, y'all. And that's how Esau gets down. He does the evil. He'll pull the rug from under your feet. And as you're laying on the ground dying, hurt, he's blaming you. Oh, well, why'd you trip? a whole bitch, y'all. A whole bitch. So now jumping to Job 20, right here. 20 and 19. It says, because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he hath violently taken away in house which he builded not. Right, and I keep quoting it to Micah 2:1. Right, hey, it's in the wanton that devise iniquity upon their beds, because it is the power. Shit, I'm gonna just get it, man. Esau, Edom, and it, it goes over the local government. The elites, have control over all this shit, so they give the green light. What's gonna get done? And so we learned, y'all, when you put two and two together, this place became a shanty town to cut off the Negroes and Latinos from gaining a from gaining a financial power. This was the #1 spot for auto industry, and then a whole bunch of colored folks start moving here, getting that Getty green. They wasn't about to have all that. They wasn't about to have you niggas out here with big fluffy coats and shiny vehicles. They had to put a stop to that. And now we see generations later, the YNs running around in the streets with their guns, with their pants sagging, downtrodden, stinky, with ski masks on. When their grandparents or great grandparents had originally came here, making money. Now look. So y'all, there's nothing that you can do while you're in another man's system. He can pull the rug up from under you at any time. Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. They have the power to strip you of everything. They can set you up. They can pull you down. We have no control over the systems that are running the country nor the world. Well, the most a nigga can do is shoot, rob, and kill. Outside of that, we have no control. So to blame the collapse of this city on black people is just like the dude said in that clip, y'all. You simply don't know the history. And so now you have a whole bunch of people, they didn't know the history. They've been teaching their kids, and now their kids don't know the history. Yeah, this is the black people. Bitch, it was y'all punk asses. The black people, weren't always doing what they're doing now. How did we go from business suits and afros to pistols and Percocets? What the hell happened? The so-called white man happened. All right, let me get another clip real quick. Let's get this. And it's through the spirit, because I had this clip saved, but I didn't have a reason to use it. Now I do. The Lord always sets it up like that. I'll be getting clips, y'all, and I'll just have to sit on it for days, maybe even a couple weeks, in the spirit of habit where it comes through. So this is 1940. This is a famous street. Chrysler Drive is what it became, y'all. Up top, 1940s. Businesses, Jake walking, right? Vehicles out. And then you look today, 2025, and I know exactly where this is at. What do you see? A freeway. Like he said in the video, he wasn't lying. That's the thing. When it comes to the so-called white man's wickedness, we don't have to quote fake statistics and lie and say this and that. We can literally see the impact of these devils on the world. Esau has to lie with these statistics about us to paint us the villain. All you have to do is look at the natural world and see he's the villain. We got audio. know what? I'm actually knock the sound. So you see here a thriving city. And now you look today, there's absolutely no traces of that. You have the freeway and the emergency, the get on ramp and shit. Look at all that. Where's, what does that say? Smith's, Sheriff, all gone. All this shit's all gone. Yep, Hastings Road. Yep. Now look, y'all. What used to be businesses and homes is now just freeway and roads. Segregation by design. That's how this so-called city and many of the so-called urban areas became impoverished. When Negroes and Latinos moved into the cities in the mid 20th century, which is the 1900s, the United States government collapsed the inner cities, moved all the wealth and the white people out to the suburbs. You motherfuckers are not smarter than us. You're not more noble. You were given an advantage because your people run the country and the world. That's how you gain your access to wealth. Let's keep it real, nigga. So this is why Detroit fell off, if you will, because Esau Edom made it fall the fuck off. And when you go back to that video, the mini ills of Detroit, it goes on to show you, what became of the city, right? You get a couple bad mayors in there, right? No more jobs. Of course, crime is going to start happening. And so that's where we're at today with it. The YNs running around today. This is all a product of Esau Edom, y'all. He's the one to be blamed, per usual. Whenever there's something going on, he's probably the culprit. You don't got to look around too long at all. Hey, this is one of my go-tos when discussing this situation. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. Sirach 34:21. The bread of the needy is their life. He that defraudeth him thereof is a man of blood. He that taketh away his neighbor's living slayeth him, and he that defraudeth the labor of his hire is a bloodshedder. When one buildeth and another pulleth down, what profit have they then that but labor? So we see, this symbiotic relationship. You have one man working and building, another man comes and takes his ability to work and to build and to provide for himself and his family. You're essentially killing him because you're going to put them in a state of poverty, which poverty leads to what? Death. So that's what happened, y'all. That's the brutal truth of Detroit. Granted, I talk a lot of shit about this city, but you can, I'm in Detroit right now. I gotta go running an errand. There's certain traces you can see, the old glimpses of beauty, where the buildings have rusted and things that were once shiny metal have turned to green and slime and bird piss and shit all over them. Esau tanked the city on you Negroes on purpose. Like it said in the video, Negroes and Latinos, because we're always the targets. We don't have to make anything up. We don't have to lie. History proves that you motherfuckers have something against us. God damn it. Nobody got to lie on the white man. The white man a devil. Edomites. I'm going to get this and that'll be about it. Sirach 4. We're going to start at 1. It says, My son, defraud not the poor of his living, and make not the needy eyes to wait long. They've defrauded us, lured you in after the war. You came here, you worked in the factories, you built it up. Hell, they had some of you niggas building the roads, cutting through your own cities. But then move all the jobs and the houses out the city. Ain't that some shit, y'all? Pull you in, make you work, move everything out, leave you stuck there. Drop the property values, then redlining. And out here in Detroit, y'all, what is that? I'm gonna have to find the 8 Mile Wall, or whatever. There's a famous street out here in Detroit Essentially, it's what divided the niggas from Edom. You couldn't get past that street. They boxed us in bad. All right. Verse 2, make not an hungry soul sorrowful, neither provoke a man in his distress, kicking him while he's down, pointing the finger, blame game. And you're the one that did it to him by defrauding him. That's Esau Edom's playbook, his 101. Add not more trouble to an heart that is vexed, and defer not to give to him that is in need. So if the so-called white man was a good person, y'all, he wouldn't be, they quote all these statistics. They wanted y'all would be helping us. Y'all funded Esau with his houses and whatnot. How come you can't fund us? Because that's not the program or the plot. The plot is to keep the Israelites down, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. They've seen what it looks like when they let you get too much power. You have the ability to take over. So they've set systems in play to prevent that. And that's how this city fell. Right here, I just wanted to show this real quick. I guess they called it the Burwood Wall. Let me get this fucking turn around. Give me 1 second, y'all. Says Detroit was physically segregated by the Burwood Wall, built in 1941 to separate a white housing development from an existing black neighborhood, with the Federal Housing Administration, those demons, FHA, requiring the wall for mortgage loans to proceed. The wall, located near 8 Mile Road, served as a lasting symbol of institutionalized racism and redlining, as well as historical site on the National Register of Historic Places. So quite literally, y'all, these motherfuckers built up a wall to keep your black asses back. I guess that's the wall Trumpin' was talking about. Yeah, I guess that was the wall, y'all. So, these things didn't happen by mistake. They didn't happen out the blue. This shit was done by the devil, per usual. The devil, Alright, so that's about it. We give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chakorash, the honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all the elect Akim, Wa Akwath, learning and teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom.